I wanted to make this episode because too many people change too fast, and what happens is they're missing opportunities because of that.
Thank you. You are far too kind, studio audience.
Let's go.
Studio audience.
What are we talking about today?
One person. So today, a lot of real estate agents have a lot of stuff coming at them, coaches, gurus, lead generation platforms. They got all kinds of things. And so how long do you give something? How long do you, let it run until you abandon ship if you're not seeing the results?
Yes. So, as I was saying,
what?
I spend a lot of money on training, masterminds, coaching, consulting. And what I found was the best advice I got was from Russell Brunson when I was in his inner circle, which is a pricey mastermind to be a part of. He said, whatever else you're doing, if you're going to do this, stop doing that. Right. And so I thought about it for a second. I was like, hey, is that a self-serving like prescription? Is he just saying that so like only listen to me so that I can make sure I have you more hooked? But what I came to the conclusion of was the rest of the prescription, which was there are multiple ways to get to the goal. There are multiple paths. There are multiple trainers, but you have to pick the one that's right for you that suits your personality the most. And so with that, there are trainers out there that still prescribe high rejection techniques, door knocking, cold calling, right? Things of that nature. And there are people who have success with that. If that's you and you're having success with that, stick with it, right? Optimize it. Get to the top of your game in that before you try to do something else is generally the prescription that I would give. If you hate it, it doesn't suit you, it doesn't serve your personality, you feel like your life sucks, you don't feel like you're the professional that you should be, right? Then you need to come to us, for example, that's going to give you people who replied or responded to you first so that you have a reason to reach back out to them. That's the most empowering for me. And when I found that model, which is direct response marketing, I was like, yeah, this is definitely the way to go. I don't like being a pest. I don't like door knocking, cold calling. I don't mind doing what I have to do to get to where I'm trying to go. But as far as a long-term strategy, the one that suits me best is that, right? Yep. And so I think that too often when agents switch from, one lead gen provider to another, or they switched in the past from something else to us, they do it because rather than try to optimize it or learn the skills to make that thing work, they'd rather just, try to find that shortcut, right? And that's why we always say like, hey, we've got all these things in place and yeah, they're pretty remarkable, but it's not a magic pill, right? Like you're not going to just instantly jump in and have success for the most part. Like if you're already a very tenured individual, agent, team, you got process and procedures in place, you know how to convert, yeah, you're going to be able to hop right in and have success very quickly. But if you haven't had success in the past, if you haven't had success with, for example, online leads, because the way you approach them are different than, a sign call or things of that nature, you're going to have to hone those skills. And so you have to pick the path that's right for you based on your personality type, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think that's the way you determine that.
Yeah. And we talked about this. I don't even know what context we were talking about it, but you brought it up and it hit home. I hadn't heard it in a minute, but picking your hard.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's hard. Like when I sold coaching for a long time and we sold a 12-month contract, and it wasn't because we needed them to pay us for 12 months. It was because a lot of times it took 12 months to install all the things into their business.
Right.
I remember this one guy in Orange County. He was netting $1 million a year from his real estate business already, but he was wanting to scale more.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I basically paid you for the first year because I didn't listen to anything you guys were saying. I missed all my coaching calls for the most part. I basically just paid a year to realize that I really needed to do something different.
Yeah.
And so year 2 was like exponential growth from where he was at. But he had a whole year where he was just like, I'm paying this $1,300 a month each month, but I'm not even doing anything with it. So like some people just, it takes a minute to like sink in and kind of install some of these things in your business. But like when you're committed to this being the path,
right,
then it makes it so much more simple. It's like there's a bunch of ways to climb up to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro or something, right?
Do you have to climb? Can I take a helicopter?
You damn sure can.
I'd rather do that.
Yeah, right.
In some conditioned air, preferably with a cocktail, right? Like I'm a man of leisure.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Where's the nearest landing spot?
100%.
Walk 20 feet.
Hell yeah. I'll never forget when I was
so warm.
Frank Curran, that's what he said. He looked me up and down. He said, pretty sure you're a man of leisure like me. And I was like, what tipped him off? You know what I mean? Like, am I out of shape? Is it
boat shoes?
It was about shoes.
It was probably the boat shoes.
The loafers. It was the loafers tipped them off. Yeah. But I was like, yeah, definitely man after my own heart. So when you think about that, like pick your hard, right? In the context, if somebody's never heard that before, like being poor is hard, right? Getting rich is hard, right? You got to pick your hard. So like it's the same thing with being in shape, right? Being out of shape is hard. Getting in shape is hard. You got to pick your hard because either way, both are hard. Yeah. It's just one has the outcome that you want. It's the same way that I pick investments, right? Like if I'm looking at a trailer park to get positive cash flow or the hard corner on Main Street, which is a commercial building, if they both pay the same amount of cash flow, one is going to be a valuable asset at the end of the 30-year note or whatever it is, 2025 in commercial. The other one is going to be a bunch of old busted ass trailers, right? I got both are hard to manage, you know what I mean? Both are about the same amount of work, but one has the outcome as far as the long-term strategy and the asset that I want. And it's the same thing with picking your hard. And so, for me, like I was always astounded when I first learned that a lot of times when people buy stuff, my grandmother, after she passed away, we cleaned out our house. And I can't tell you how many boxes of just shit we found from QVC that were never even opened. And I'm like looking at my dad because I'm like, she wasn't a rich lady, and he was like, that was her joy, she would buy those things. That was her entertainment. That was her joy. And I was like, okay, well that's a good way to look at all this waste, But the reality is, when it comes to buying a coaching program, buying something for your business, buying a piece of exercise equipment, there's like a chemical release in your brain of like, oh, I already did something, right? Yep. So like Dan Kennedy always said, I don't care if they open the cellophane wrapper on the information product that I sold them, as long as they bought it. And I always thought that was super callous because for us, like we have to get their ass in shape, right? We want them to have that success. So like all of our thinking is like, how can we cajole them into the next step? How can we get them to the next part? How can we get them this understanding? Because it has such a big ripple effect in their business over time, right? And so for agents, listening to this, what you have to decide is, again, what suits your personality the best, right? And I think that everybody wants to have certain things. They want to be respected. They want to have a life that is, a business that serves their life instead of their life serving their business, right?
Yep.
They want to have, a feeling of status and self-respect. And so for me, I can't think through anything other than attracting business to me so that my response, right? That's why it's, direct response, right? Is just serving them. Right? Yeah. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. It becomes so much that it's like my personality type, right?
Yep.
Now,
And it's so funny, like, because there's people right now that might be listening to this, watching this somewhere in the US that's like maybe fresh into real estate, and they're like, I'm ready to go. I want to be a millionaire, right? And then it's like, oh boy, what do I do now?
Well, there's so many things, like you said. I mean, if you talk about real estate as a real estate agent and your phone picks it up, which I know they say they don't listen, but they do, you're going to get inundated with all kinds of people telling you this is the way, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way, right?
Shortcut.
100%. Even the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, right? Like that's a way. You know what I mean? Like there's things in there that if you treat it like a buffet are going to serve you. If you try to dial in that model exclusively and you ignore everything else, you're going to have some level of success. But that was written for a different time.
Yep.
There are different things now, and I'm always, when I look at agents video marketing now, right? Like that's a huge component to marketing a listing that wasn't around 10 years ago, right? Like it just wasn't a thing. So that's a huge part of having success today, especially if you're not camera shy, you know? Like some of the favorite ones that I like to watch are these gals at the lake, and they're so charismatic, and the shots that they get of the home. I feel like I'm walking through like, the house in a way that's like an action scene in a movie,
right?
Yeah. Like makes me want to go look at the thing. So that's another component today that wasn't around back then. So when you're picking who you're going to follow and you got to make sure that it's contextual for the time, right?
Yes. Very. And if you pick the lane, you just got to, it's almost like not giving yourself that like out. of if this doesn't work in the first 30 days, I'm out, right? And I feel like a lot of places that bill monthly, like that's the initial timer people put is whenever that next payment's due. If this isn't working by then, I got to pull the plug. And it just causes you to just go real shallow a bunch of different places, and you're not digging any real holes, right?
100%.
And you're not getting anywhere. You're just feeling exhausted.
You're also creating a bad habit.
Terrible habit, right? And so, like, do your due diligence and pick your lane. But once you pick your lane, fully commit. Like, there's so many times where when we were selling Market Maker $1,500 a month, that people were like, "Hey, listen, I know I have to give this at least 6 months before I can even judge anything about what this is. Probably a year."
Those are usually already successful agents because
Correct.
they have an understanding of that, right?
Yep.
But I mean, you think even a billboard, right? $1,000 a month used to be anyway. I don't even know what it is anymore, but it's a 12-month contract, right? So like you're going to give it 12 months. You got to give it that level. But I think anything that you do, you have to have a pre-commitment. I remember when I first moved to Lake of the Ozarks, I was like, okay, I'll give it a year. I've told you this, right? Yeah. And if I wouldn't have had that mindset, then I probably would have left after month 2 or 3 because I'd moved from everybody I knew. I had 100 friends, social life. I was young, so that was very important to me. If I didn't have that mindset, I wouldn't have stayed, and I wouldn't have had the success, and I wouldn't have had the outcome. And so I think that right now we're going through a process of a different business. How would you describe PLG? I don't want to tip it off, but like we're going through the process.
Motion.
We're going through emotion there. Yeah. And it's like, it's the same thing, right? Yep. Like you don't get instant success. We are building a foundation in this thing that we don't have a muscle built in. We suck at it, right? Even though we're good at other things, we're good at marketing, but like this process, there are other people who have done it before us. So we go and find the best person that we can. Literally, we hire them and then they start training us. And we were in a training today and it was like kind of drudgery because we've been through that before.
Right.
But at the same time, our team is getting trained and it's never bad to have a refresher. It's never bad to have a refresher. And so we're paying a lot for that. But that process, it's not like, well, if we don't get success in month 1, even though we're paying monthly and it's very, very high, in my opinion, as far as the amount of consulting fee, I just quantify it out over the next 12 months. So I'm like, that's what I'm expecting to pay. I expect to have results within the next 12 months, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I will because I put the onus and responsibility on me to have the success, right? I know that they're not going to do it. They don't. The only thing they care about is as long as we continue to subscribe,
right? Right.
Like, so they want to add enough value in order to make that continue to happen. Yep. But they're not naturally going to be vested in whether or not we hit our goal, right? Because they don't get paid for that, right? Like we get paid for that. So the responsibility is on us, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And in the minute that flips in someone's mind is like the 100-0, not looking through the world through victim glasses, but turn those upside down into accountability glasses.
I like that.
Thank you, Megan Spray.
Yes.
Now know as Megan McManus.
Right.
But like for that, once that flips to where you just are like, no one's coming to save you. No one, right? You are a grown ass adult and you got to make it yourself.
100%. I think that is the difference between people who, have a great deal of success and people who don't. I've had agents come on my team with that mentality of like, oh, this doesn't work or this isn't working or blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, they never want to look internally, right? Like, I'm going to invest time into myself to really develop these skills and all of it. Like I tell people, even our sales team here, it's a habit that you're building, right? Yes. Like if you don't develop these skills, I don't care what the vehicle is, right? If you don't develop this mindset, this mental toughness, it doesn't matter what position you're in, what job you're at, what brokerage you're at, what lead gen system you got, what coach you have, you are not going to have success in any type of a sustainable manner because you're developing a habit of something less than being excellent, right? So like developing the habit of excellence, it requires patience, right? Like in giving it time and giving yourself time, right? Seeing it for what it is, not worse than it is. Giving yourself time to develop that muscle, right? Like I always say, you don't start out at the gym lifting 50-pound dumbbells, right? You start where you're at. And like hopefully if you stay consistent over time, you can increase that weight and you're developing that skill. that's just how everything works. The challenge today is everybody wants things instantly.
Yep.
You know, they want instant success. They just want to show up and be celebrated. And I wish it were the case. I would love that for myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just I haven't found that to be a feasible, possible thing. I mean, I buy lottery tickets sometimes. They don't.
Very nice.
I feel like what you're paying for is the dream before you find out that you're one of the 100,000 losers. You know what I mean? But like, you're gonna feel like a loser because you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
It's just almost inevitable.
And if you look at like the top the super famous athletes, I'm gonna go outside of your analogy box here.
Oh, let's go.
But I'm gonna go Tiger Woods. You know Tiger.
I do know Tiger Woods.
Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
So like Tiger, for example, has probably had like 3 or 4 different golf coaches.
Yeah.
Like if he hopped around every 6 months, he wouldn't be Tiger Woods.
If he didn't have a coach, he wouldn't be Tiger Woods.
Right.
And I think that's one of the main things. Like so many people, they're not coachable.
Yeah.
Right.
You
I
like
know how to do this. I don't need any help.
Yeah, he's the greatest golfer, like in his prime, greatest golfer on the planet. Yet he still has paying a coach very handsomely to tell him what to do, right? And so it's like repetition. Repetition is the mother of all skill, and repetition. Kobe, his story is that when he was like 12 or 13, he started growing a little bit more, but he just started practicing twice as much as all of his competition. And so he was like his first AAU game, he scored like 0 points and whatever else, and he was kind of scrawny and average, right? And so he just started practicing. So if they practice once a day, he practiced twice a day. And he was like, you couldn't notice the difference until about year 1. And after a year, you could notice a difference. But after like 5 years, he was so much better than everybody else because he had twice the work.
Collapse time.
Yeah.
100%.
And so like there's so many little things like that. But then we hear things like this. We see things like this. You see little inspirational posts from if you follow stuff on social media. And then we go and we still want the easy way, right?
100%,
And it's just like, listen, if you give yourself a longer duration, you can, the Tony Robbins people always overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10.
Right.
Like set some goals for yourself that are a little bit further out and just commit to doing something for a long time repetitively, and you will start seeing gains.
It's the 10,000 hours, right? Yeah. And the other thing I always like to say is if it were easy, everybody would do it,
right?
I think that part of that instant gratification that I feel like is accelerating in society is because of social media. I was talking to a young person in sales, and I was like, "How many people do you know that make $100,000 a year that are your age?" "Oh, I know tons. See them all over on Instagram." I was like, "No, how many do you actually know?" "Well, none." "Well, why do you think the people on Instagram are actually real? Like they're a lot of them. It's just they're putting out things that they want you to believe that aren't necessarily true." I mean, how many times do you see Island Boys, right? Broke.
I'm 6 foot right now.
Right?
My man.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just fake. It's fake. And so many people base their judgment of themselves in the world around this fallacy of like, I mean, how many people do you see in rented vehicles, planes that don't take off? You know what I mean? Like they're taking a video on a plane, they ain't going nowhere. They're just using the plane for the video shoot, and you're like, oh, they're balling. Yeah, well,
I feel personally attacked.
I'm not personally attacking. I'm just saying. Like, there's a lot of that. There's more of that than the other.
Yes.
Right? Like people who are actually, doing very well, very wealthy. Like how many times you see Elon Musk, like, talking in his private jet? I've never seen it. You ever seen it?
Nope.
I've never seen it. Right? Like people who are really doing that shit, like they're not putting it out there on Front Street, right?
Right.
Yeah, because they have no reason to. Like how many times you seen like a billionaire like, oh hey, I'm creating a coaching program, right? Like one time I saw it and I reached out immediately, and then I got his sales guy because it was supposed to be a one-on-one with him. I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
but it's very rare, and even that, I don't even know if the dude's really a billionaire. I never even Googled him. He just like said I had $1 billion exit, so whatever. But my point is, don't judge based on those things. Give yourself the patience and pick what suits your style, and give yourself time to have success with it.
Yep.
Yeah, most people don't, and that's where they screw up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom.